If you were to ask me what my favorite movie of all time is, I would 100% tell you that it is the movie Cars. This movie was a huge development in shaping myself, as early on it introduced me not only into American car culture, but into the world of motorsports. The plot of the movie follows young hotshot rookie Lightning McQueen in his quest to become the first ever rookie to win the Piston Cup, but he fumbles the bag and ends up tying with two other cars, resulting in a tiebreaker race in California the next week. Whilst on the way to California, some shenanigans occur and McQueen ends up stranded in Radiator Springs, where he learns through others how to be compassionate and that winning isn't everything in life. Overall, it's an incredible movie that feels like a love letter to car enthusiasts and also has some pretty funny moments.
He won 3 Piston Cups! He did what in his cup?
The movie turned out to be really profitable for Disney, as not only did it do well in the box office, but the merchandise sold generated tens of billions of dollars. So there was no doubt that a sequel would have to be made in the future, but what we got wouldn't exactly be what people were expecting.
Shoot, I didn't Request acknowledged.
Yeah, so Cars 2 turned out to be a spy action thriller movie following Tow Mater as the main protagonist instead of Lightning McQueen. The movie follows Lightning McQueen getting an invitation to a world-class racing league where he competes against cars from all different areas of racing, but then shenanigans occur when an evil group of lemon misfit cars cause chaos on track to bring negative publicity towards alternative fuels, leading the spies Finn McMissile and Holly Schiffwell to stop them. Then they accidentally recruit Tow Mater, who, after having a fight with Lightning McQueen, was accidentally believed to be the American spy. They then have to work together to find clues to reveal the identity of the man behind the scene, who later on tries to obliterate Lightning McQueen, but their camera death ray didn't work. All in all, it's revealed that the main mastermind behind the scheme is Miles Axelrod, who was the guy who not only created All in All, but also created the league in the first place. Like I said, this was vastly different to what we saw in the first movie, and for that reason, movie critics despise this movie, rating it so low to where it's considered the worst Pixar movie of all time. And you know what? I actually believe them. I saw this movie as a really poor attempt at creating a sequel to one of my favorite movies of all time, as the plot was extremely confusing and such a drastic 180 compared to the simple and calmness of the first film. Even some of the racing and car culture fans who loved the first film voiced their displeasure with this movie, showing that the movie was unnecessary and idiotic. But after watching the movie again, I gotta say, they are all completely wrong. Cars 2 is actually a pretty great movie and is far from being the worst Pixar movie of all time. So this video will cover my reasons on why the public perception of Cars 2 is completely wrong. So let's get straight into it. Just to begin with, I gotta say that the plot for Cars 2 is actually incredible. Having the main characters branch outside of Radiator Springs builds the overall world and gives insight into how different these areas are from what we see inside the town. The premise of a giant Le Mans style race across huge landmarks across the world for all motorsports leagues is such an incredible idea, and I personally would rather have seen this as the main plot point instead of Mater's spy mission. But anyhow, Mater going undercover as a spy to take down a giant oil billionaire scheme actually works better than it should, and his goofy and comedic personality works great with the seriousness of Finn and Holly. I will say that the reveal of Miles Axelrod being the main villain at the end felt really rushed. However, Professor Zundap on the other hand is easily one of the most evil villains that Pixar has ever created. This dude literally compacts a car into a cube and then goes on to kill a spy by blowing up his engine. For a kids movie, the things that Zundap did were actually pretty dark. Overall, the movie just really flowed well from scene to scene, and the only things I wish were different are adding more racing focused scenes and maybe not rushing the reveal of Miles being the villain. Even with the common kids movie trope of splitting up the two main characters before eventually reuniting them at the end of the movie, this movie uses the new surroundings and characters to keep the audience entertained. Speaking of new characters, Finn McMissile is easily the best character introduced in this movie. He gives off full-on James Bond-esque vibes and even got an incredible theme song. Along with Holly and Zundap, these new characters don't fall flat along any lines. As I mentioned earlier, Holly and Finn contrast with Mater's energetic personality and sort of bring him back to reality, while also encouraging him that he isn't useless. Zundap is an absolute psychopath who is determined at carrying out his mission, which makes him one of my top 10 favorite Pixar/Disney villains, including villains like Syndrome, Ernesto de la Cruz, Mr. Waternoose, and
Say it with me.
I also gotta mention that the opening scene with Finn getting chased by the lemons was incredible, and Zundap's defeat was also quite satisfying to watch. But there is one thing that I appreciated the most out of this movie, which is the constant and crazy action that takes place. The explosions are off the charts in this movie, with my personal favorite moment of the entire movie being the oil rig detonating up in a spiral movement. That was a really satisfying moment to watch. But also the constant usage of guns was hilarious. Can't forget about the death ray camera that they kept using on the racers. All of these factors, plus many more, makes Cars 2 a great movie overall. But don't just take my word for it. Go check the movie out for yourself. I personally believe that this movie is an extremely funny and entertaining movie to watch when bored. And although some people have drastically different opinions, that's completely okay. But what do you think about Cars 2? Leave a comment down below on whether or not you like Cars 2 and why you feel that way. Until next time, boogity boogity boogity, I'm out of here, boys and girls.